With me on the show is Katherine Brodsky. She is the founder of Random Minds PR, a boutique agency that specializes in mainly film and TV theater publicity. But she also does branding, video production services. Katherine is out there helping actors in all facets of their career. She's handled everything from popular TV series or Hollywood films to independent feature films and documentaries. She's a member of IATSE 669, and she has also worked on a number of projects as a unit publicist, including Amazon's Man in the High Castle, Jack Ryan, which is an amazing show with John Krasinski, Universal's Good Boys, which was produced by Seth Rogen, and Apple's Home Before Dark. Now, you can read more about Katherine in the bio below with a ton of other great things she's done. But what I thought was great for people to know today is that she's also got an extensive background in journalism, having served as a Canadian correspondent for Variety for about 8 years and contributing to publications like The Washington Post, The Guardian, Esquire magazine, Entertainment Weekly, Playboy, Mashable, CNN, and The Independent. She's worked on all kinds of media and understands publicity from the journalist perspective as well. She's produced and directed video content for companies like BBC America, NBC Universal, ABC, Disney, CW. She's got an incredible resume. Let me bring her onto the show and you can get to meet her now. How are you, Katherine?
I am good, thank you. How are you?
I love your CV, and I think it's so great that you are a CWBLive consultant. There's so many working actors who are trying to figure out that component of their profession, which is, you know, I've got to be great on screen, and yet I want to do everything I can to ensure that off screen, off camera, I'm building my audience however I can as well. You must talk to actors every day about this. Is it easier than it ever was, or would you say that with social media now, publicity for actors is more complicated than it ever was?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think there's a lot more platforms to worry about, a lot more things you can say wrong than ever before. I think it used to be a little bit more simple. You know, if you look back in the golden days of cinema, you know, the studio sort of controlled the actor and did everything for them and created this image for them. Whereas nowadays, you know, actors are very independent and it's their responsibility for the most part to create their own publicity and and marketing and become a brand. And there's all these platforms, and now there's a lot of niche, you know, there's more publications than ever. There's a lot of niche publications, and then there's of course social media. So there's a lot more to worry about.
Right. I think, you know, if you looked at even just 10 years ago, there was only so many places an actor might try to develop a publicity or a PR strategy. And with social media exploding, of course, that becomes another avenue. But for you, you work with actors and companies to understand far more than just the side of social media. There's which events or award shows should you be at? You know, what other projects that you might be working on or charities on the side could you be evaluating? How are you developing your brand and things of that nature? Do you find that most of the time when you finally connect with the clients you work with, they've been getting good advice or bad advice or maybe no advice at all before they came to you? What's the landscape been like?
I would say all of the above. I mean, some people really have no idea and they have a very vague understanding on what publicity even is. Some think that it's just social media or just press and that it's easy or that it's impossible, you know. It's kind of all over the place, and some people have been given, you know, that advice of no, there's no such thing as bad publicity, which of course we know there is. So I think it's sort of all over the place, and I think it's so individual because every person is absolutely unique, just like the way that an actor, you know, we say you can't compare yourself to other people, right? Each actor, there's only one. So it's in the same way you would approach publicity for that person. It's so specific to that person and to their experience and to their life experiences and their background and their personality. And it's always going to be different.
I know one of the things that's really important to you, and one of the things I think is so great about your approach, and if you will, the ethics that in which the way you work with actors is, you don't believe in just taking a retainer and for anyone. You really want to help the actor and help them when you can help them. And in some cases, not every actor is necessarily ready for the types of PR or publicity you might be able to help with. Can you talk to me a little bit about that and what your approach is for any actor who might think that it's time for me to get some big publicity?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And it is something that comes up a lot for me. I think actors are particularly vulnerable to being preyed on, and people promising them the moon or telling them, that they need this, right? And I look, whether I'm working with an actor or I'm working with a company, I look at what is the goal. So that's going to be the first question, because I don't necessarily believe in publicity for the sake of publicity. I believe publicity as a goal for something else. So for some actors, it might be, because they need for the O1 visa. That's really important, is to be able to get the publicity. You can't really get the O1 visa without it. Or perhaps it's about branding themselves, and that's important. And then in terms of the time when they're ready, if they have a small role in a short film, honestly, it would be a waste of money, most likely. Unless there's some really compelling reason otherwise. So you kind of have to look at a case by case basis. But most of the time, I look at things like, do they have a very big role in, say, an independent film that's in a big festival? Then that may be a good opportunity. Or do they have a pretty remarkable role? So I had, for example, a client who was very up and coming, did not necessarily have a huge resume, but she was cast in a film that was at the Toronto Film Festival by a fairly well-known filmmaker. The film was going to get a lot of attention. She did have a big role in that film and was very stylish. So I was like, okay, we can do something with that. And she has like an amazing bubbly personality and a great look. And we were able to capitalize on that. And you have to be sort of realistic what you can attain for people too. So I usually try to undersell so that I can over deliver. And publicity is also something where there is an unpredictable component to it. And it's the thing I hate most about it, right? Because I'd love to have all the power. And sometimes what you think is an amazing story, for whatever reason, doesn't go. And I've also had...
And you're not afraid to tell that to actors either, are you? I mean,
No.
That's what I think is so great. As somebody, in many cases, you could probably help a lot of actors save an investment in publicity that might get them nowhere. And you're not afraid to do that.
No, because I don't want to work with someone where I don't feel like I can deliver for them, or at least have a very strong chance of delivering for them. It would make me, I would be pretty miserable, honestly. I take that pretty personally. So, and I don't want to see I love actors, and I don't want to see them waste their money. I don't want to see them fail. I don't want to see them taken advantage of. So I don't, or anyone really, but actors, I would say in particular, again, because I think they put so much into what they love, and I definitely see a lot of traps for them out there. So I don't want to be one of them.
I know how much you care about actors. Tell me about what they can expect if they book a session with you. What are you like to work with? How do you approach those early conversations before you really dive into building a great publicity strategy? What do you do?
Sure. So I'm a big, especially maybe because of my background in journalism, I love research. So I really love to know as much information, as much detail as I can about the actor, and also their needs and their projects that they're involved with. So I want to know what their background is, their experiences, even their hobbies, because sometimes that's relevant, or if they're involved with a charity. Like there's no such thing for me almost as too much information, because I want to know everything, because you don't know what's going to spark a story. So initially I want to have that conversation, and I want them to submit some information to me about their background, and I do a lot of research. And then we talk about their goals, and I want to know where they are, where they hope to be, and what is the purpose, where do they see publicity, and also what are their realistic expectations. Although I want to first know what are their dream, pie in the sky.
Of course.
And we take it down to, okay, this is what I think is going to be realistic here. And then it's a communication. I like to have a personal relationship. I like for it to have a casual feel to it so that everybody's comfortable. And I think a lot about working with a publicist is also personality feel. You know, I'm probably a little bit more quirky and bubbly. Some publicists are a lot more stern and you know, and tough, and there's a place for that too. So, you know, it depends on the client and what their needs are at that point of time. So.
You've been doing this for over 15 years. It's in your blood. You love it. And you can tell it shines through when I talk to you anytime about the world of PR and journalism and publicity. Can you help, and will you work with actors who might have faced a crisis or some negative publicity? Is that an area you're able to support and help actors with it all as well?
Yeah, interestingly enough, I kind of love crisis communication because to me, it's really creative. I think it has to come from a place of truth. You know, I wouldn't work with someone to sort of cover something up per se, but I've definitely had to deal with situations of crisis and figure out how to best tell that story and how to address that story. So that's something I actually, oddly enough, enjoy doing. But of course, it's better to avoid. For the actor, it's better to avoid getting to that point for sure. So
100%. Katherine, tell me, you know, last but certainly not least, why is it that you still continue to love this so much? There's so much media and PR. It's sometimes overwhelming. And yet I don't know if I've met someone who truly loves it as much as you do. Why has this been such a fun ride for you? And why do you continue to want to work with actors, you know, big and small, in such a crazy changing industry?
Yeah, I think in the end, it all comes down to from one simple thing. The way I look at PR is storytelling. And I think a lot of times I meet people and they don't know how to tell their own story, or they don't have access to telling their own story. So what I think where the piece that does make me passionate, because there's a lot of grunt work in it and a lot of stuff I don't like, but the stuff that I do love and drives me is like when I find somebody who has an amazing story to tell or has an amazing talent that I want people to know. And that's really the driving force for me, is to tell their story and to bring attention to someone that I believe in or a project that I believe in. And that's ultimately the driving factor for me when it comes to PR.
Katherine, thank you so much for your time today. Final thought to you, any message to actors out there who are considering making the leap into developing a PR or publicity strategy and are looking at booking some time with you? Any message you'd like to leave them with?
Sure. I would love to, you know what your strengths are as a human being and as an actor, and we can help figure that out together as well. And then know why you want, you know, just to do something for the sake of doing it, I don't think is a good idea. But, you know, if you have, if I can support you in terms of making a certain dream or goal a reality, that's what we need to talk about. So I'm ready with that.
You are great at what you do, and we're so proud to have you part of the CWBLive consulting team. So I encourage everyone, read more about Katherine in her profile page below. You can book a session with her easily. Her calendar is up to date, and you'll be able to find some time that works with you. Otherwise, Katherine, I hope we see you again and we talk to you real soon, okay?
Thank you. I love the casting workbook. Thanks for having me be part of that.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.